And I heard myself in my head, like this deep voice in me that was my own voice that said, I come from the divine. And then the real healing happened. Suddenly, I started to feel what I can only describe as the sun rising in my body. You know how like people who have had near-death experiences talk about like going through the tunnel?
Yeah.
It was like, I actually was like getting like, the tunnel was like filling up in me. It wasn't exactly a tunnel, it was the sun. So this vibrating, alive, pure love, self-luminous sun, light started. It just came out of my own body. Didn't come any, I didn't go anywhere. I didn't change anything. It just was a deeper dimension of existence that rose up from my toes, and it started filling my physical body with
Wow.
complete, perfect love and bliss. I want to, like, the term in Sanskrit is Satchidananda, existence, consciousness, and bliss. Like, I was filled, and it went up through my legs, through my pelvis, and it went and landed in my heart. And I just started weeping.
Hi, everybody. It's your girl E, and this is another episode of Vision Rebirth. This is a podcast where we explore life-changing stories of near-death experiences, out-of-body experiences, divine dreams, meditations, and encounters with other beings. And today we have a special guest. She's a healer, a teacher, and she teaches the Sanskrit chant. She's also a hypnotherapist and a dean in charge of the first year of training at the Brennan School of Healing in Minnesota. We have Caprina Brown. How are you, Caprina?
Hi, Erica. I am so excited to be here and to talk to everybody. Thank you for having me.
For sure. This has definitely been a long time coming, and I'm definitely anxious to get into the convo. Now, with you, you had what's called a spiritual transformation experience. And before you sort of get into what happened to you, can you just explain to the people what exactly that is?
Sure. Well, I don't, there's different ways to talk about like uh, out of body or experiences that are beyond our normal ego sense of self, as Caprina, who has a body and brown eyes and brown hair and is operating in regular 3D reality. So people who have had near death experiences are dead. You know, like they leave their body and they see their body, and they've had a health, something's happened to them where they like die, or they're having an operation and they're unconscious and they pop out of their body, and then they come back. They talk,
Yeah.
you know, they have an experience that they love sharing, and then they come back. But you don't have to die or be sick or have something force you out of your body. You can have that spontaneously. You can, and so that's what happened with me. And I can tell you my story. It wasn't exactly spontaneous, but it was completely a surprise.
Okay. Okay.
But it's an inner, it's an experience of yourself in deeper levels of consciousness that you can have. Some people have it in meditation in India and in the East. In deep absorption in meditation, you can enter into these states. They have names in Sanskrit for them. So I don't know if this is enough of an explanation, but it's an experience of your essential nature that's beyond your body, and like it's beyond name and form. It's beyond like this sense of my limited personality and body, and that only this world exists. It's a very expanded, deep experience that's more, people call it like going home or experiencing your true nature. that's eternal and perfectly full and fully conscious. And I'll go more into that later, but that's what a spiritually transformative experience is. It's where you are awakening to your true nature rather than your limited sense of self.
Yeah, it sounds like it's more so just an experience of experiencing things that are beyond our physical like realm of experience without having to die or leave your body to do it. That's what it sounds like if
Exactly.
I'm
You
understanding
That's
correctly.
right. That's
Gotcha.
right. You can have all kinds of amazing spiritual experiences in your body. Or that's without having to be sick or leave your body.
Gotcha. So what sparked your spiritual transformation experience? What happened?
Well, so it was can I give you a little bit of the journey?
Yeah, it's all about
Okay,
the
so
journey. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, so before kind of like this big experience that I want to share with everybody, I was already like really I had kind of met someone that was a spiritual teacher and who would chant these Sanskrit mantras. And when I would hear these mantras, I would start weeping spontaneously. I was raised Catholic. I'm an American in the West. I didn't have any exposure to this at all in this life as Caprina. And the minute he opened his mouth and started chanting these beautiful mantras that speak of our oneness, that speak of our communion with the divine and speak of our true nature, and that we vibrate with them, that's like everyone was in the room just kind of like chanting with him, and I was weeping. I was like us like from someplace beyond me. I was like, oh my god, it was like a purification of my heart. I don't know how else to explain that. And so that's kind of what started me, and I knew I had to go learn that. And
Wow.
it came from deep inside of me, and I was like, if I could say that even once, my whole life would be worth it. that
Wow.
that was this feeling from deep inside of me, and my mind was like, what the hell is wrong with me? Like,
Right.
why can't I stop crying? Like, why am I doing, like, am I like losing my mind? But on a deeper level, I was like, I felt my longing to know myself. I felt my longing to know God, and that's the same thing. We call it different things. My longing for home, and somehow those vibrations in those mantras somehow were helping me go there. I wasn't there yet, but it was like
Yeah.
a purification. So that started me kind of on my journey. And so I studied with this person. He came and um, ended up moving to my city, and we were kind of inseparable for many years because he knew all of these beautiful scriptures from India, the Vedas, the Upanishads, different Puranas. And I loved the truths that they expounded. They talked about our oneness. They talked about um, how to kind of like resonate and connect with the divine and all of the different levels of consciousness. I just loved that. And I longed to know them, not just to read about them. It's like instead of like looking at a picture of the ocean, I wanted to swim in the ocean. That type of a feeling. And so I underwent. So in like in the tradition that my teacher was from, you do something called tapas or sadhana, which is like a spiritual practice where you just repeat these mantras, you chant them, you meditate on them, you do them all the time. So I was in this kind of like very obsessive place. I mean, it's kind of, I mean, I was a teacher at the time. I worked part-time in the public schools, and I would go to work and then I would come back, and that's like all I wanted to do. So then I started having these weird body symptoms. Okay. And so, like there were well, before that. So like one time, so I, like I said, I would cry. like I call them God tears. Like it just felt like I was getting purified from inside. Like I could, like my heart could breathe and my system could relax. And I just felt more whole when I would vibrate and resonate with the mantras. But then I started having kind of like really beautiful, like one time uh, I was driving to the grocery store, regular day, and my Sanskrit teacher was sitting next to me in the car. We were going to get groceries, and he was doing these drills, these grammar drills when you're studying a language, where you say like the word we were practicing was bliss. You in Sanskrit, it's ananda. Ananda means bliss. And ananda has many forms depending on how it's used. So he was saying decline ananda. So that means go through all of its different forms. So I just started saying ananda, ananda, anandaha, and going down like all these different subtle changes in the vibration. And I'm just driving and chanting and going from memory. And suddenly, like this vibration started like rippling through me. And instead of like chanting bliss or thinking about bliss, I became bliss. Like so like the name and the form are not separate in the Sanskrit language. So I literally it's like being filled with bliss and then going beyond it where there's no filling, you just are perfect, like just bliss. And I was laughing and I was beside myself with bliss.
And you did
just
this
like
while driving?
vibrating.
You did
Yeah,
this
and
while
I'm driving on Brooklyn Boulevard in Brooklyn Park, Minnesota, going to Cub Foods with my grocery list. And my teacher, he didn't know what was going on. He goes, keep going. Because like I stopped and I just started like giggling and bubbling and overflowing with bliss. And he goes, keep going. And I'm like, wait, no. I'm like, just wait a minute. I had to let this like eruption of bliss like ripple through me. So I was, these are mystical experiences. So that was like, oh my God, this is real. Like for me, I'm like, no one told me, like nobody said, do these mantras or chant and you'll experience God. Like nobody said that, but that was like what was happening to me. So I thought I was on the right path. I'm like,
yeah,
this is amazing,
yeah,
and
yeah,
this is, and I wanted to like teach it to the world, and I do,
yeah,
but you don't need those, you don't need them, but they're tools, and they helped me. But what happened though was I was doing this really intense spiritual practices, and I started having some really weird symptoms. I started having a feeling of lightning striking across the middle of my body. And I had a couple of instances where like I'd be out trekking or walking in like a national park, or I was up in the mountains in India, and my legs would just stop working. I couldn't walk. I would just not be able to move.
yeah.
and it really, I was like, something's wrong, like something's wrong neurologically. Um, and I also had I started getting really bad lower back pain. So I'm like, like in the energy healing world and in the healing world or the spiritual world, they say like when you are, connecting to your true nature, things heal. But I
Yeah.
wasn't healing. I was getting kind of like worse.
Yeah.
And my sister has a, a chronic neurological disease. So I went to a neurologist. I had MRIs, blah blah blah, and I got diagnosed with the same chronic neurological condition that my sister has. I don't like to name it because it kind of
It gives it power.
it gives it power. So, but we were naming it. We were
Yeah.
naming it, and I had the stuff going on in my brain a little bit, and it scared me. it really, because it's debilitating over time, and it really, really scared me. And I was, I went to doctors, I took medication, but the medical community, this was in 2001. At that time, there was really no really good medical help. So I think you and I had kind of talked a little bit before about like, why did you go into like energy healing instead of staying with the medicals? They couldn't do
It
anything.
was none. Yeah.
There wasn't, I mean, they had stuff, but it was like side effects. And I mean, and I took it for a while, and then, well, I took some medication, and I was still getting that lightning striking feeling.
It was
And
just
I
like a
was still,
band-aid.
yeah, I don't know. It wasn't supposed to fix it. It was supposed to prevent more from happening.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but my once in a while my legs would be weak. I never had an experience of like not being able to walk again, but my legs would be weak. Um, so I just kind of grieved. I was like, I felt betrayed by God. I'm like, I am on this path and I get this. Are you
Yeah.
kidding me?
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, and I was in my early 30s. I was like 32 or 30 or 31. And um, I grieved for a long time, and I decided um, I'm going to go all in with
Yeah.
what I feel in my inner self. I'm going to go all in, and um, I'm going to use medical, conventional medicine as much as I feel like I can. I don't want to like say no, but I'm going to explore healing.
Yeah.
But then what happened was a book came into my life. One of my friends, is a psychotherapist out in Aurora, Colorado. Her name is Nina. Nina gave me the book called Hands of Light by Dr. Barbara Brennan. And Barbara Brennan is, I would say, she was the foremost energy healer of the Western
Yeah.
continents. For when she was alive, she's not alive anymore, but she was unbelievably gifted as a healer and a writer and a teacher. And I started reading her book, Hands of Light, which she published in the early 80s. Um, and it called me to study with her. Um, so it brought me into this whole realm of I can explore energy healing. I can explore consciousness, different dimensions of consciousness, because the root cause of anything physical is never really physical. The root causes are deeper inside of us. There's a purpose that we need to like kind of the root cause has a purpose.
Yeah.
And finding it is the purpose, and healing that root is the purpose. um, and I had never heard that before. So that was really fascinating for me. So I went to a workshop with Barbara. I had a profound experience of her working on the relationship between my mother and I, where I forgave my mother
So
for
that was
everything.
was that the cause of the.
Well, I thought so. So I thought it was. So when I went to see to one of Barbara's workshops, um, my intention was to receive a healing from her. She didn't do one-on-one healings. She did group. She called them goddess healings, and she would stand on the stage and transmit the goddess, which is just beautiful healing energy. And I wanted to be healed. Like the idea was like somebody outside of me can help me contact the healer within. And what
Gotcha.
happened was she was on stage. She did do that. She did do a goddess healing at the end of the workshop. And my intention was to heal the root cause of whatever was happening in my body. And I went into a altered state of consciousness that I was just in this beautiful kind of illumined space. where my mother and I were there. Like we were like in like my body was there, her body was there. This is like a dream inside of myself. And we walked into each other's arms and embraced and forgave each other for everything.
Wow.
Wiped it all completely clean. And I wept, I wept from that. And on that level of my being, that was healed. It's still healed. I mean, my mom, she's still alive, so I'm not going to say too much, but she's mentally ill,
Yeah.
mentally ill. And so there's some things that just can't change. But the love in my heart for my mom is completely there. And I
Yeah.
could not access it before that. So that was the beginning too. But I also was like, I don't know. Like I'm a doubting Thomas. I'm
Same.
like, did it work? How do you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
What I'm talking about. And you have a strong like left brain, critical thinking, critical
Yeah.
thinker. And I'm like that too. And that's a gift to have because it kept me going.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I didn't want to. I was like, I really want to go to the Barbara Brennan School of Healing and learn this to deepen my own healing and to become a healer to help others. But in my mind, it was too expensive back then. I thought, oh my God, it's a huge. It's a
Yeah.
huge, this is my younger self. I thought it was a big time commitment and it was a lot of money. And I thought, well, let me see if I can explore in like cheap, the things that are less expensive. So I did a bunch of training in other forms of energy healing and in hypnosis. And that's the experience I want to tell you about.
Okay.
That's what
Okay.
really, that healed. Do we have time? Can I tell you
Oh,
about it?
listen. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay. So I went to this, I was going to go to this. So I wanted to learn how to go to like past life regression and what's called interlife regression because I had been reading lots of books that said, these types of entering into these dimensions of consciousness can heal the deeper root causes that are beyond this life
And
that exist in
what's the
other.
inter past life one? What is that?
Oh, so so they call it life between life experiences. That's what
Okay.
people experience when they have near death experience, like who they are when they're not in their body. So yeah,
Gotcha.
if you think of it like as this isn't really how it is, but if you think of like linear time, it's like you're
Yeah.
incarnated in a life and then you're not incarnated in a life. What are you doing
Yeah.
when you're not coming back in? It's like, what's happening up there? Like, you've heard people talk about like, before I was born, I had my guides and my team and we planned my life.
Yeah.
And then, okay, so that's kind of like
That's
the
a
level of consciousness.
sort of like the in between your
Yeah.
lives. Gotcha. Gotcha.
Yes. Yes. And you can go there. There's hypnotic techniques that you can enter into that. Anyone can.
Yeah.
So I was doing training in that, but I'm telling you, Erica, my heart, I was doing it because I thought I had to do that and search out what level of my consciousness was asking for healing because I wasn't satisfied that
Yeah.
experience of healing with my mom had really gotten to the root cause. But I was doing these workshops to learn hypnosis, and you have to do it in stages. And I was unsatisfied. I was doing it going, this works, it's good. But what I'm really longing for is still that longing that got awakened when I heard the Sanskrit chanting to know God. That's really, and I really was like, I know that's the only thing that heals, really. And it was just something from inside of me. So anyways, I did all this training in hypnosis, which I do, and it is really beneficial. I'm not dismissing it at all. There was just something in me that wanted something even more than that. So I was at this training for that life between life hypnosis training, the techniques for how to help people access their memories of their consciousness before they took birth in a body. So that
Yeah.
in between realm. And they had kind of set it up that, people sometimes experience like they're being with their guides or being with Jesus or being with God or, everybody kind of has different experiences, but being in this kind of like place where they understand the deeper meaning of their life and why they came here. And, so expect like that, we're going to see if we can access, some kind of memory in that realm. So I was thinking to myself, I don't want to do that. Like I didn't say that out loud, but I was like,
Yeah.
I want to go
You want to
to
go
the
straight to source.
source.
Yeah.
Go straight to God, and that was my left brain, that was like, no, none of this is like God. I want God, So in these trainings, you practice on each other. They like teach a technique, they do a demo, and then you partner up with somebody and you practice.
Yeah.
So I was the client, and so I was practicing with someone, and I was uh, the only thing that hypnosis really is a deeply relaxed, focused state of awareness. So it's nobody's like controlling you. And so what we had done is we had done this like deep relaxation process, and then this deepening of like making your awareness more one pointed, this deep focused awareness, not focusing on anything except for just your mind gets really quiet and focused.
Yeah.
And then the woman who was practicing with me, my partner, she says, now go to where you were before you were born. That's all she said. And I heard myself in my head, like this deep voice in me that was my own voice that said, I come from the divine. And then the real healing happened. Suddenly, I started to feel what I can only describe as the sun rising in my body. You know how like people who have had near death experiences talk about like going through the tunnel?
Yeah.
It was like I actually was like getting like the tunnel was like filling up in me. It wasn't exactly a tunnel, it was the sun. So this vibrating, alive, pure love, self-luminous sun light started. It just came out of my own body. It didn't come I didn't go anywhere. I didn't change anything. It just was a deeper dimension of existence that rose up from my toes, and it started filling my physical body with
Wow.
complete, perfect love and bliss. I want to, like the term in Sanskrit is Satchidananda, existence, consciousness, and bliss. Like I was filled, and it went up through my legs, through my pelvis, and it went and landed in my heart. And I just started weeping because I think most of my wounds and that I kind of acquired in this life and others were around love and around the heart in ways that we betray ourselves, ways that we betray
Yeah.
our own hearts,
Yeah.
ways we kind of feel like we have no choice but to betray our own selves,
Right.
or ways we don't know we have power, so we betray ourselves. And
Yeah.
I was carrying a lot of that, and I literally, this sun, this vibrating loving presence of light that is like the sun, but it's not hot. You can look at it. I could see it in my mind's eye filling me, and I just wept. I cried and cried and cried. And at this time, and it was like that, those purifying tears or God tears, it literally like cleansed my soul in a way, like cleansed my heart, my human personality, because this was more my complete self. And my partner, she doesn't know what's going on, like they're supposed to be following this kind of step-by-step process. She says, are you with your guides? And
Wow.
I opened my eyes. Like I was fully in this experience, and I opened my eyes and I looked at her, and when I opened my eyes, I could see that this is the light that is the substratum of all creation. That this light is like the it's in everything, and it's like it was almost like everything was golden and it was kind of translucent. What was primary is this light. And I said to her, shh. I don't know where this came from. I just went, shh, I'll tell you when I'm ready. So I could communicate.
Yeah, because
And I wasn't
I'm trying to think,
thinking.
what was your partner seeing you do? Like, what was she
She was
seeing?
watching me. She was so good. She just went, okay. Like she obviously I was having this like amazing experience. So then I closed my eyes because I was not ready to like stop that, and I didn't feel like I had any control of it. There's nothing in me that was thinking really.
Yeah.
It's like I watched myself go, shh, I'll tell you when I'm ready. But I was more like, wow, like this is all God. We are all God.
Wow.
And it was like literally perfect love. It was the most unbelievable love, and that's kind of where I thought it was going to stop, but it didn't stop. So then I closed my eyes again, and I just was bathed in the light of the self, is what I want to call that. The light of the self that's self luminous, resplendent, and alive, and that is in everything. And then that light started going higher. Okay. So that was kind of from the heart level that I felt that and saw that. Then I went deeper. My consciousness was brought deeper. And I had this vision and experience of I actually am like that. I'm the sun. And I saw the sun rise above the causal waters. And I don't know how I knew that. I hadn't heard that term
Yeah, because I
really
was about to say, what does that
before.
even mean?
I'm going to tell you what that means. So in like in the scriptures of India, they talk about the causal ocean. So I didn't really have that concept. Okay. So, but I experienced it. So this is what it is. So like, when you're like at the lake or the
Okay.
ocean and you see the sun like at high noon, this
Yeah.
beautiful, like brilliant sun in the blue sky, and then you see the light dancing on the waves of the
Yeah.
waters. Okay, so I experienced being that sun. Like I was not in this world, but it was an internal experience of that becoming, expanding my concept, my sense of self. I became that sun, and I could see the light dancing on the surface of the ocean, of the water, and it was alive, and it was like a 10,000 times more brilliant than what we see here in this realm and on Earth. It was alive and dancing, and I knew, oh, all the worlds that we experience are under the water. Those are the waters of consciousness, like thought and deep internal impressions in our conscious and subconscious. And that this is like God enters into that. Like it's the light enters into that and becomes everything. It is the each of us is like a little ripple in that
Yeah.
ocean. And I
Interesting.
but I wasn't experiencing people. I was experiencing the symbol of water, but it was real.
Yeah.
And then that was beautiful. And then the ocean kind of disappeared, and and this is the most beautiful part for me. I mean, the whole thing was beautiful, but I entered into absolute completeness. And the feeling and the knowing was there is no other. So there's no we, there's no ocean in me, there's no light in me, there's no Erica in me. It's an experience of completeness. I am one complete, perfect wholeness. There's nothing missing. There is no other. And then I knew this is what we're all looking for. This is what we're all looking for because I felt complete and completely satisfied. It was a desireless state. And what I understand now is that the causal waters are about desire, subtle, subtle wanting, desiring something, like feeling somehow that you're incomplete and you want something. And that the kind of like the work in those in our dimensions now is to actually experience that we aren't missing anything. We are whole, and all things come from this divine self. But in that state of complete, perfect fullness, perfect being, perfect stillness, and luminosity, I knew this is what's inside of that coffee when I drink it. The part of me that gets any satisfaction out of drinking my coffee is God. It's this. When I eat chocolate, the chocolate itself is empty. This has become the chocolate. It's the divine in the chocolate that is satisfying me. When I achieve that degree, it's the divine within that experience that is satisfying me. It's not the degree. It's not, I didn't do it. It's like there's no separate self doing and achieving something outside of you. It's the divine play of consciousness. It's not it's the divine in anything that satisfies you, including relationships, including people. Like the divine in you and the divine in me brought us here. But that's the satisfying part, is this consciousness that has become all. That's what satisfies. And so and I knew I was healed. I knew that. I was just like, this is it. Like it was like I had Caprina consciousness, and then this full
Like the
on,
collective consciousness.
not even that. I would say the consciousness of one, of one. I am whole and complete, and there is no other. And there was no images, there were no thoughts. It was a complete experience of that. And I literally, I was just the light of the consciousness of the self. It was non-dual. There's no duality there at all. And then knowing that this is what does everything. This is what becomes everything. This is what creates everything. And I don't need any of that. This is what I am. It wasn't like a rejecting. It wasn't anything like that. It was just like, there is nothing other than self, with a capital S, the divine self. And I was high on that for probably a year. Like I kind of, it slowly faded, and I still felt it. It wasn't like, oh, I wish I could go back there or anything. I just kind of it just naturally kind of, I came more into Caprina consciousness, but it was completely with me, and it's still with me.
Yeah.
When I'm talking to you, like, my intention is to kind of transmit this to people who are listening.
Yeah.
And that's the healer within all of us. And so that I did eventually go to the Barbara Brennan School of Healing, because I felt that I literally woke up one day and went, okay, I'm going. Like,
Yeah.
I just trusted that, and I'm glad I did, because it helped me to be able to access this more,
What I like
on a
about
more
you
regular.
what I like about you going to that school is you weren't looking for her to like heal you. You were only looking for help from her so you could heal yourself. I think that aspect is important in the energy healing space, and that's what
And
I
that's
think
the
helps you.
truth.
Yeah.
That's the truth. Otherwise, you will be disappointed,
Yeah.
and the healing is incomplete. And I don't, like, I have a lot of really strong intuition, or people call it psychic abilities. I don't use that to disempower people. I
Yeah.
don't say, oh, here, I'm going to read you and tell you. I mean, I use that information to help me work with somebody. I don't tell people what I'm seeing and getting unless I'm guided to. But it's more
Yeah.
like, oh, I can feel how my client is being who they are not. And I know how to respond energetically to help them remember who they are. But I'm using my intuition and my knowledge and um, experience with energy consciousness, which is what we all are,
Yeah.
to help them feels weird to say that, access the healer within them. But I know it is way beyond my personality. I mean, I have skills. I have a lot of skills. I'm an instrument. We're all instruments of the divine. But the deeper healing comes from within you.